Now, one last question for Janet Ratty before I open up questions to everybody and artists in the audience. And my question to you is that, does gender inform art, would you say? That's a nice tough.
It's a really tough question.
It's a tough one.
Thank you.
Well, you curate it.
The simple answer is yes and no. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, of course.
Yes. I mean, it depends at what level you're looking at it. Obviously, if you're a female artist, you're going to be inspired by your gender. It's, well, male or female. So obviously the exhibition is about women artists. So yes, I would see that gender very much informs the art that we see here. On the other hand, for me, this is maybe going against the whole concept of this exhibition, but for me, gender is completely irrelevant in art. I take it to a higher level, and I look at the art for the quality of the art. So, going back, this exhibition is about women artists, and yes, they have a voice, but it could equally have been, sometimes I'm asked to curate exhibitions about women, and I specifically include male artists, because I think why should one just focus on women artists?
Can you talk about the process of curating this particular exhibition?
Yeah, no, of course. Well, I mean, I was helped very much by Paul and John and by Claire and Marie. They very kindly invited me to curate it. They told me that the subject matter was going to be about the positive side of women in the Middle East, and I completely relate to that. I think it's very, very important that we do actually focus on the good things. And I say it all the time. I'm also on the board of the LMEI magazine, which is the London Middle East Institute magazine, and I made the point there, we can't just focus on the troubles, we have to, because it is very positive. There is so much that the Middle East is giving everybody. So for me, I resonated with it immediately. Obviously, I've been working with several of the artists already, and therefore I invited them to be part of the exhibition. And then there are some artists that I've never worked with at all and never met before, and it was really nice to have that opportunity to include them in the exhibition. We had wanted to limit the number of artists. Obviously, there were several artists now who said, I wish I could have been part of that exhibition. It would have been lovely if we could, but we limited it for obvious reasons. And I wanted it to be a complete range of works. So we weren't dictating to the artists other than saying that the work had to be made specifically for the exhibition, because I think it's nice then that the artists are able to respond to the theme of the exhibition. They're not just regurgitating work that had been seen before. Some of the artists show regularly in London, so again I wanted the audience to see new work within the context of the exhibition. But beyond that, I said to the artists, please just do what you like, interpret it as you think it should be, your work. And it was a really lovely surprise to see some of the works. With Zahela, I was expecting something completely different. And then, yes, I think it's superb. The works, I think, work really well together. We had quite a number of photographers, which was really nice. And then, well, all medium, painting, photography, sculpture, installation, mixed media. And I think, again, I wanted a high quality exhibition, and I think very fortunately we've actually achieved that. I'm very, very pleased it's been so well received by absolutely everybody that's seen it, both in Jordan where it started off, here in London, and of course it's travelling on as well.
And usually, an exhibition that might be shown in Jordan might not be as well regarded as it could be here, and yet I'm sure that that each place has responded very fully to it.
I think that's an incredibly interesting question, is how do the different audiences view the works? Because it won't be the same in each place, which again is nice that different people and the audiences are entirely free to interpret the work as they like. We're not telling them how it should be interpreted. And yes, you will. You'll get somebody in Jordan doing a particular work which maybe in London doesn't have the same meaning for the audience. And likewise when it goes on to the States. So I think that's very important. And like I was saying earlier to somebody, the works are being hung differently because of the different spaces. So you'll get that relationship changing all the time within.
I think that we've also entered a time of identity politics. That I've noticed that when I was in New York last week, I saw a billboard, and the billboard was talking about a television presenter, and they described him as half black, half white. And I thought, oh, this is so interesting. Now everybody is a component of who they are. And I wanted to ask the artists at the table and the artists in the audience, how important is identity? Identity being an Arab woman artist, an Iranian woman artist. How important is that? And how does that affect your work? Who would like to start?
Okay.
Sorry, I'll bring it to you.
I think identity, it's interesting because I grew up in England and I traveled back to Saudi and now I'm back here studying, recently graduated. So identity has been a theme that's been recurring. I've been trying to kind of make sense of both worlds that I've been living in and my space in between these two worlds. And the meaning of culture and how culture changes and how I'm almost this kind of hybrid being that's kind of evolving and changing. So to define myself or to define where I'm from, I kind of have these questions constantly when I'm producing my work. I don't know if I have the answers to them yet, but I guess it's kind of part of my journey through this path. So yeah.
Yes.
Identity, as she says, is a really difficult question to ask me now because I just moved to London 3 years ago and I've lived in Lebanon for 40 years and I've never known anything else than Lebanon. So I think we're all lost here. I think we're all asking ourselves these big questions. I try to dissect what it means by when you say patriotism, identity, belonging, cultural background, and these huge big names in neons above our heads, and I'm like, okay, let me dissect it to see if I want to follow this path or will I cut the links here. So it is very difficult. I think it's important, I guess, to have your identity is important to you and where you're coming from is very important to you. But the thing is, where it's a bit of a conflict for me is where, I mean, when I lived in Lebanon and I've been through the wars, I had the right to talk about the war. You know what I mean? And here I feel that I'm passive. There I was active, I was in the middle of the thing, I could get the news from the streets, I talk with my neighbors, I have dinner.
It's only because you're distant.
But
you're still knowing it's not the street you know, but it's a street that you'll come to know.
It's just that I don't feel that if I look at the news through BBC or news or it's just that it's blurry. The line is getting blurry. Do I have the right to talk about it? Do I have a voice? Or am I kind of abusing the situation and profiting from the situation? This is where it's a bit too complicated.
I would never suggest that.
I hope not.
Because I think that the artist's point of view is needed in this country too, no matter where it comes from. We, especially in this country, especially now, we need all of our artists who are homegrown and foreign. We need them to be actively engaged and looking so that we can figure out a way out of this mess that we're in, and we need it. I mean, so don't hold back, please.
I'm not, but I'm always in doubt. So
it's just because you've moved, I think. Yeah.
I'll see you in a couple of years.
Yeah, no. I expect that you will do that transition. How about you, Marwa, in terms of identity? Because we don't know that much about Bahrain. Some of the news isn't good, so we don't know.
For me, identity, I mean, my art is it's like a journal, but it's rather than writing it, it's a form of expression. whether it's my photography, and I feel a lot of my photography is related to Bahrain, especially before and after, documenting growing up, seeing, for example, the palm trees, and now there aren't as many palm trees. It's just for me as a resident that. And growing up, and for my kids now, not to see what I saw growing up, it's always something I want to document. And the other day driving by and not seeing a palm tree that I documented and now it's gone, you feel it's part of history, and that's how I.
So do you feel that you're documenting or that you're working on a disappearing world? And that must make you nervous, and not as an artist, but on some level of creative engagement.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for me a way of connecting to my land, my surroundings, and it's just whatever is around me is inspiring for me to put that in an expression. So for me, it's having it as a photograph or collage work is also another thing that is a form of meditation, working on it. So. My identity comes through my artwork, and you can tell that there is an effect of my surroundings.
Often the first question is, how does your work, how does being a woman and being Middle Eastern affect your work? You never ask that from a Belgian painter.
No.
You never say to him, how does being a man and being a Belgian affect your work? And it just kind of tells you so much so quickly about how the world views you. And I think that these hurdles are the ones that we need to negotiate really carefully, because I can't shed my skin. I'm a cultural collage, which is I always say. I'm something between Iran and England, because I've spent the majority of my life in England, and yet my roots are deeply in Iran. And my work is about Iran. It's about pre-revolutionary Iran. So, I think it's a very good question, but as a woman, I think it can be ghettoizing. It can be very problematic, because I think, as great benefit it is to be, Middle Eastern, because you come with all these, with this massive background of culture and richness of poetry and literature.
And an aesthetic. You come with an aesthetic, especially Iranian artists, I feel. Yeah. They come with a very full aesthetic.
I think this is due to the Iranian language. Persian is very poetic. It's a very flowery language. And so I think that poetry is almost in our blood. And so when we look at the world, we look at it through the lens of poetry. And I don't mean to be romantic about it.
No.
It's literally how it is. And I think as an Iranian artist, I kind of use that poetry. It helps me a lot, because metaphor allows that slippage in meaning. Poetry, as I've always said, I think, there's mathematics, which is about truth, and then there's the arts, which is about poetry, and it allows you that slippage of meaning, which allows you to not be nailed down. That's the beautiful thing about metaphor, and I use metaphor all the time now.
So I'm going to start with you. I'll ask another question. Is that now, because of the situation in the Middle East, there is great pressure on artists to be political. And some artists are, by their nature, political, and some artists are not. How do you feel about that pressure being placed on you? Like, do you respond? Do you like it? You don't like it? Because you were talking about, if you're answering or you're creating a metaphor, then you don't really want to be pinned down.
Exactly. That allows censorship to be, you can negotiate censorship much better. I think all art is political. However, I agree with you. I think that as an artist, I use magic realism in my work as well. And magic realism has historically been used in countries which, like South America and many countries like Iran, which allows a language that creates fantasy and reality to live together. So that also allows you to kind of weave in and out of meanings and stories and narratives, and I think that artists, certainly in Iran, if you look